Well, hello, all you future dentists. Today I'm going to break down some tips on how to do well on the DAT. So as you're all aware, DAT is the dental admission test. It's kind of a big deal. Big test, 5 hours, and that's a big part of your dental school application. So today I'm going to break down some tips on how to help you guys succeed. So number one, make sure you plan things out. I know this is simple, but I think a lot of people really underestimate how much studying will go into the DAT. And this is one of those things where you want to make sure you give yourself enough time that you can do well and succeed. I think this is kind of a stressful thing often for dental students, like when should I take this? So I think ideally if you could take it in between your sophomore and junior year, that's kind of an ideal time because that way you can get it done, focus on your application, and then apply during the end of your junior year. But life does not always work out that way. So find a time in your schedule, whatever your situation is, where you're going to be able to devote a lot of time to studying for the DAT. For me, I was a little late to the game and trying to figure everything out and cram to get into dental school, so I ended up taking it my senior year. But whatever works for you. But I do recommend you guys should take organic chemistry, general chemistry, and a lot of your biology courses before you take the DAT. So there's a lot of information on the DAT, and if you're studying to learn it before you take the DAT, that's going to be really tough. It's a lot easier to already take those courses. You have a good background in many of those subjects, particularly those 3 classes. Those are going to be huge parts of the DAT, and it's a lot easier to review the concepts you learn from those classes than to start from scratch trying to learn it. So definitely make sure you take those courses beforehand. Alright, so like how long should you give yourself to study? Now honestly, this comes down to you and knowing yourself and how long you think you will take. But I would definitely recommend give yourself more time. So I did it about 3 months. I gave myself about 3 months to study for it. I'd recommend giving yourself at least like 8 weeks, like 8 to 12 weeks or so. But it depends just on how free you are and how much time you can devote to studying. Because you want to be able to put in a lot of time to studying this and make sure that you're able to review all the subjects, review multiple times, and take lots of practice tests. So make sure you give yourself more time than less time. So my second piece of advice, it's kind of like what I was talking about. Taking your general chem, your OChem, your biology, taking those important classes before you take the DAT. But don't just take them to get the grade like, sometimes we do in college. But really try and get a lot out of it because that is a big portion of the DAT. If you do well in those classes, if you learn the material well, that's going to make studying for the DAT way better. And I think that's one of the reasons I did pretty well because I did retain a lot from that. Just make sure you try and learn the materials like as much as you can while you're in the class, while you're in those classes. So it's a win-win. You get a good grade and it helps prepare you for the DAT. So might as well just really focus in those classes to do well. So number 3, get your resources. Figure out what you think will work best for you. So I did DAT bootcamp. I know a lot of people did that. I haven't tried all the options, but I think that is one of the best bang for your buck kind of deals out there. I think it has a lot of great resources, lots of practice tests. I feel like the practice tests are very accurate of what the DAT is. And it has a study schedule. I think if you follow that study schedule, you're going to do well. That being said, there's a lot of other great resources out there. I'll make a separate video that'll go over more of those resources in detail. But for now, I think that's a great option. And if you share the promo code Dental School Mentor, you can get 10% off. Number 4. Or 5, what am I on? After you have everything scheduled, you have your study resources, making sure you study effectively. As I'm sure many of you are aware, there's more passive learning and there's more active learning. So passive is like going to lecture, reading in your book, like that's great and all, but if you really want to remember material, doing things like taking tests, teaching other people, whenever you have to try and recall that information, that helps create a stronger pathway in your brain. That helps you remember the material a lot better. So when you study, try and focus on meaningful study. So don't just spend forever reading through. And reading through is sure great the first time. Doing practice tests, that you're quizzing yourself, that you're teaching other people, doing things like that really helps you recall that information. That's going to give you the most bang for your buck. So try and have very productive study sessions. And so kind of with that, I would recommend if you can find other people that are going to take the DAT around the same time as you, having some study groups. And that's a good opportunity you have to practice teaching each other. That's going to help you really solidify that information. So definitely look for study groups. I know some of these resources have online study groups, and I think that's like fine, but I don't think it quite matches the same as being in person and studying with friends. And to kind of piggyback on with that, number 5, make sure you take lots of practice tests. Not only, like we just said, that helps you recall information really well, but also taking the DAT is a pretty long, extensive test, and that's something you need to kind of train yourself for. You know, like running a marathon, you kind of need to build up a little bit of your mental endurance to take it. Because it's honestly, it's kind of exhausting, it's a lot, and you got to figure out your timing. So going through and seeing lots of practice questions, that helps you focus in on what your problem areas are, but also kind of helps you gauge how hard the DAT is going to be and kind of at what level you need to study for. Honestly, with the DAT, you want to just make sure that you know every subject pretty well. You don't have to do super deep dives into different material. Most questions on the DAT don't get that specific. They're not super hard, but it's just that you have to remember a huge amount of information about a lot of different things. So study questions, going over lots of practice tests can help you really figure that part out. Again, another part, like I said, it's like training for a marathon. Like, you're going to be doing a lot of mental focus, and like, that's tough. You know, and that can get exhausting. Like, that's tough. And also, like, it's a time test, and you need to get your timing down. This, again, is like another area where I wish if I could do it again, I'd focus a little bit more on that, because, like, honestly, I'm not super fast at doing math. And like that quantitative reasoning portion, like, I should have worked more on getting my speed up in that section, because I was like just barely getting it done in practice tests. But when I got to the actual DAT and there's more stress and more things on you, like, I had to guess on the last, like, I don't know, on like the last 5 or 10 questions of my QRs. You know, and obviously that wasn't probably great for my score, and that was my lowest section. So there is something to say of doing lots of practice tests to get your timing down and get used to this kind of testing format. And again, that's a great way of studying. It's going through tests and then seeing what you got wrong, going back and reviewing that, then quizzing yourself again on those same questions. That'll really help solidify that information. I'm not really keeping track that well, 6 or 7. So this again is kind of just like setting up your time so that you can succeed. You want to give yourself plenty of time that you can study, but also planning out like your study sessions and making your study sessions productive. This is about, you know, using your time effectively again. So like we said, you try and make your study sessions very effective, you know, use things that make you recall that information, you know, have very productive study sessions, but also time those out. You know, schedule that out for yourself too. Plan what you're going to study. Just make sure that you're following some kind of guide, or that you have things planned out of what you're going to study. So you're not just sitting there wasting time like, oh, what should I study now? Try to map it out and make your study sessions effective. It's a lot of studying, and honestly, it just kind of sucks. I found it best to just focus on having a very productive, like, hour study session, then go take a break. Take a break, go do something fun, relax, come back, and then have, you know, another good, effective hour study session. Like, it's better to have several short study sessions that are effective than to just sit there for 7 hours cramming and where you just want to smash your face in. So make sure that you give yourself some breaks. Don't just devote all of your time and life during this period to studying, you know, and enjoy life so you don't burn out. And again, the key here is, like, you want quality study sessions. It's not about logging a bunch of hours. It's about learning the material, reviewing that. And so last thing, just to kind of go with that, is making sure that you just review a ton. Again, if you've taken those courses, you're not really learning a lot of new material for the DAT. Most of this you have heard before. So this is all just about remembering it, hitting that repetition. And that's kind of the great thing. Like, most of this you know, or at least you've learned it at some point. So the main thing is you want to, you know, do your active studying, but get lots of reps in. If there's certain concepts you're struggling with, write them down on note cards, and carry those with you throughout the day. So in that way, whenever you just have some downtime, you can pull those out, study a little bit. That way you can always kind of just be reviewing throughout the day. One of the main secrets of this test is repetition. Take lots of practice tests, take lots of quizzes, and just review a lot. Just give yourself tons of reps at all of this material, and you'll do great. So again, in technical terms, you're trying to learn a shiz ton of information. So make sure that you get lots of reps in at that. I ended up getting a 21 on the DAT, which is like not a bad score. It's not amazing, but it's like, that's a pretty good score. And I know you guys can do better. Like honestly, I was not a good student in high school. I was not a good student for most of college. So if I can do well, like I know you guys can do well. And I promise if you follow these steps and put the work in, you can do great on the DAT. So let me know what you guys think of the video. If you have any questions, if there's anything I can help you guys with or clear up, please let me know in the comments below.